So now let us prepare in mind, body, and spirit for our service today. The reading is from Gary Zukav, The Seat of the Soul, Seeing Clearly. Clarity is the perception of wisdom. It is seeing with wisdom. It is being able to perceive and understand the illusion and to let it play. It is being able to see beyond the activities of the personality to the force of the immortal soul. It is being able to understand what it is that is striving to come into being, the health and integration of the personality and the evolution of the soul. It is being able to see the role of responsible choice and choosing accordingly in each moment. So if you can just now take these words into that inner sanctuary within your own soul for a few moments. So where I stand right here and right now, that infinite energy of God, the power and the love and the light of God move through us, as us, and around us. As is a very heart that is beating because of that spirit within our own soul. I know that as we come together, our hearts are opening to a wider and greater place, so that we can feel that love of spirit, so that we can allow that love to move through us, as us, and around us. And so that we can allow others to feel the love that we have to give as well. And so I know that there is absolutely no way to be separate from this power of God. It is indwelling within every cell of our body. It's imbued within every ounce of our soul. And so I know that this service today is absolutely in divine order and divine right action as we come together in this celebration of our own lives in this day, in this time. And so I know that God works through us, as us, and through this service, through the band, through Reverend Cece, and through the children, and everyone that is right here today celebrating God and celebrating our lives and celebrating our spirit. And so I say thank you, Father, Mother, God, Infinite Spirit, as I know that it is done, and so it is. Amen.
A change of batteries goes a long way, doesn't it?
It goes fast too.
So we are wrapping up a month-long exploration of living from intuition, living from that intuitive part of us that is sort of always speaking to us. It's just a little bit difficult to pay attention to and to hear sometimes. And we're winding up with this idea that we have to be able to see clearly if we're going to follow our intuitive guidance. I love the Gary Zukav quote. I hadn't read that book in years and years and years, but I just got in the mail a complimentary copy of the 25th anniversary edition with some extra stuff in it, which made me really happy, because this book for me was formative. It's the first thing that sort of kicked me off on the spiritual path. And I love what he has to say. He says, clarity is perceiving from wisdom. It's seeing with wisdom. Being able to perceive and understand the illusion and let it play without hooking into it. To see beyond the mere personality and the mere circumstances to the force of the soul that thing in us that is always trying to be born, that is always trying to become greater, that is always trying to grow and evolve, by whatever name you call it. You could call it life, you could call it the universal intelligence, you could call it God. I think one of the things that we have to be able to see clearly is that as human beings, we are a series of paradoxes. As spiritual beings having a human experience, we are all about paradox. And one of the biggest paradoxes is that there is this thing in us that is always wanting us to grow and expand and learn new things. We love that. We love to learn new stuff. We love to experience new things. And at the same time, there is an equally strong opposing force that wants everything to stay just the same. I call that the soul and the ego, for lack of, any other descriptive words. And when I say ego, it's not a bad thing, it's a necessary thing. It's the thing that lets us navigate life. The problem with it is that the ego likes things manageable by it. And it wants to keep things a certain size so that it can stay in control. And when that happens, we stop growing because it basically wants us to stay right where we are. Don't get too big for me to control. And yet there is this pull to become, to step out into what we came here to be in a bigger way. So we always have this contradictory thing going on. Ernest Holmes, our founder, wrote a little quote in an article in Science of Mind magazine that he wrote years ago. He said, "We generally seem to resist change, even that which is better for us. We also appear to resist being what we really are. We need to learn carefully and surely to permit ourselves to to accept the fuller expression of the mind that is within us. Against this, there must be no resistance, for in its creative flow through us rests our entire future, the greater person we may be, and the richer life we desire to enjoy." I love that. Against this, there must be no resistance. Good luck with that, Ernest. There will always be resistance. There will always be resistance. Because every time we step into a greater expression, there's that ego part of us that says, you can't do that. I will lose control. I won't be able to manage things. So resistance is a natural part of this. And resistance is one of the things we have to be able to see clearly, that we have to see with wisdom if we are to progress spiritually as human beings, as spiritual beings in any way. My teacher used to say that if you want to go over there to somewhere you've never been before, when you take a step, everything that is unlike that is going to rise up to be healed. And that has been my experience. Some days it's like whack-a-mole, there's another one. It just rises up. So resistance is inevitable. And the other thing is it's wily. It's very clever. The ego has many voices and many disguises, and it can come in all sorts of ways. One of the ways that it comes is that charming voice in our heads that says, "How are you going to do that?" Or, "You don't have the money, education, class, looks, training," whatever it is that the ego can find to say you can't do that. Or it says, for me, a couple of weeks ago, I kind of got an inner challenge. And for me, it said, "You don't have time, you're too busy, you're too tired, you're too old." It can come up with all sorts of things to say. Another way that it comes in our society particularly is distraction. We are so good at distracting ourselves. I mean, think about it. You can't even use more than 140 words anymore, or you've said too much, right? The length of a tweet is it. You can't use more words than that. And have you ever, you can see it all around you. Go out to dinner sometime and you can hear the phones dinging, like you have a text message and people immediately look at them. I do it too. Oh, text message, better check it. Voicemail, better check it. Some people have their Facebook page alert them every time there's a new post, for God's sake. How can you ever get anything done with the Facebook stream popping newly into your consciousness all the time? We are a society of distraction. And maybe it's because we have these gigantic issues as a people, as a world, that we need to deal with, and they're so overwhelming we'd rather distract ourselves. Talk about resistance. Don't even look at it. Sure, just look at this little screen. It will all be well. One of the ways that resistance happens is distraction. Another way it happens is injury, accidents. As I said a couple of weeks ago, I got an inner call and an outer call to be more, to show up bigger. And so I promptly went to the store and tried to tear a couple of my toes off. I got my foot stuck and fell and twisted, and I think, the break was nothing. It was the soft tissue stuff that's still bothering me. But it was really bothering me a couple of weeks ago. And then 2 weeks ago, Cynthia James was here and did a workshop that was really powerful. Those of us who were here all felt stuff shifting in big ways, including me. And at one point, she was asking us to tell our story for the last time. You know the story we keep telling about ourselves, about why we are the way we are and who did what to us when we were 3 and all of that stuff that we carry around. She said, tell it for the last time. Make it good. And then she asked us to look at our resistance to letting it go. And we were doing a visualization, and she said, what does your resistance look like? And in my mind's eye, I saw in my hand these 3 little black flakes of burnt something. It was too heavy to just be paper, maybe bark, something like that. 3 little flakes of burnt something. And I looked at them and I thought, I could really let this go. I really can. And so I just dumped them out of my hand and let them go. And at that moment, something in me broke loose. There was an expansion in my very center that I don't think I've ever felt before. And it was exhilarating. It was wonderful. It was exciting. It was like, wow, this is cool. I don't have to carry that stuff around anymore. I can let go of that part of me that says, you can't because. It was wonderful. I was here the next day to introduce Cynthia and to listen to Reverend Cynthia and listen to her speak. And then on Monday, I got an ear infection. And then on Tuesday, I have a bad molar that's coming out this week, and it decided to abscess. And then on Wednesday, I got an urinary tract infection. And then on Wednesday afternoon, I got another abscess. And I went to Instacare, and they treated most of it and said, this we can't do anything about. You'll have to go see somebody else. I went home with a couple of prescriptions and went to bed. And I was lying there moaning and griping and feeling sorry for myself as this abscess was like growing in front of my eyes. And I'm thinking, this is just nasty. This is just nasty. I don't like this a bit. And we had an open house for our house on Sunday. The realtor was coming over. And so in between naps, I was cleaning a little here and there. Saturday morning, I got up and was vacuuming and moving furniture, and I threw my back out. I was on the floor on an ice bag going, I can't do this. I can't do this. So it's Saturday afternoon and I can't stand up straight and I'm just a mess. So I called Becky and I called the court counsel and they said, consider it handled. So I'm lying in bed thinking, what is going on? This is just so weird. And then, aha, it's resistance. And when I didn't pay attention to the resistance when it was little, it got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until I was flat with it. And what I learned was that the only way to deal with resistance is to love it, to welcome it, to accept it, to learn from it. Here's another Ernest Holmes quote from this same article. He said, someone has said that the language of resistance is pain. But non-resistance finds the harmony of the universe and swings into its motion. going with the stream of power, which nourishes and protects. Resistance is the offspring of fear and ignorance. Non-resistance is the offspring of love. And I thought, yeah, that's it. I have to love this. I have to love this. I have to say, thank you for coming. What are you here to teach me? And what it was there to teach me was, well, there are a whole bunch of things, but first off, that resistance is going to come up. And I can either accept it or I can resist it. And when you resist it, guess what happens? It gets bigger and stronger. Anytime we push anything like that away, we give it that additional strength. And so it just kept kind of whacking me until finally I was on the floor. And I had to say, what is it here to teach me? And what it's here to teach me is that every one of those little things I can deal with. You know, I can deal with a couple days of antibiotics and, you know, my tooth is better, a couple more days of antibiotics and the other things are better, a little ice and rest and my back is better. That they are all just little things that I have to deal with lovingly before I can step into that, across that threshold, into my comfort zone, out of my comfort zone, until I can step across into that place where by definition we're uncomfortable. That's what it means. You step out of your comfort zone, you're uncomfortable, which is the place of growth. It's like we all live in a little container and it has a finite size. And we grow to fill that container and the walls get tight and it gets uncomfortable. There's that pull in us to be more, to express more, to become a greater expression of life. And then what happens is the container walls explode outward and we're in a bigger container. We're always in a container because our perception is what defines it. So now we have a bigger container. We don't know where the walls are. And we've got all this space to grow in. And so we grow until that one becomes too tight. And then it breaks and we get yet a bigger one. And that first breakthrough is uncomfortable because we don't know where the walls are. But it's the most natural place for us to be because we are by definition growing, evolving, expanding beings, becoming fuller and freer in our expression of life. And so I knew that each one of these little things was sort of just a temporary, small little glitch that I could deal with quickly if I turned to it with love. Because what was there for me to learn is that there's nothing powerful enough to stop the expression of my soul. There's nothing in you powerful enough to stop that expression. There's nothing in you that could possibly ever quench the light that you are. There's nothing in you that could hold you back for any length of time from becoming, what was it Ernest Holmes said? What we really are. And what we really are is conduits for life, conduits for God, conduits for good, conduits for blessing. And there's nothing really that can stop us from doing that. It can only hold us back for a minute. And it holds us back shorter and shorter the more we love what comes up for us. The more we say, oh, resistance, welcome, thank you, why have you come in? What are you here to teach me? Instead of buying into its siren song. Buying into the siren song of resistance. I want to close with and one more Holmes quote from a different article. He said, the law of life is a law of cooperation with all that is fine and true. Believing that life is God in action, we must accept its processes with the firm conviction that in the long run, all things will work together for good. Resistance brings contraction, cooperation brings expansion. That's the way we can tell the difference between the voice of the ego and the voice of guidance within us. You know, when you step out of your comfort zone into that new territory, sometimes you'll hear a little voice and it'll say, don't go that way. And it's hard to tell whether it's the ego saying, if you go that way, I'm going to die, or it's that inner guidance saying, you need a course correction. You need a little course correction. And the way that we tell is that we've all been given what I call our God positioning system. It's our gut. It's the feeling in our gut. And so if you hear that voice and it feels contractive, it feels fearful, you can count on it being the ego. You can count on it being that thing that's trying to derail you from forward progress. It's resistance. If, on the other hand, you take a step in the direction you're being guided and you kind of go, this is good, then you continue on. And the really wonderful thing is, because of what we really are, even if we go down the wrong direction for a little bit, there will be a course correction. There will be a way for us to get back to where we need to be, because every time we do, we are allowing ourselves to swing into the motion of the harmony of the universe. We're allowing ourselves to go with the flow of that stream of life and of support and of encouragement and of good that's always seeking to make its way into the world by means of us. And so what I would wish for you is that you embrace your resistance, that you love your resistance, that you learn from it quickly so that you don't have to suffer, and that you just simply know that it's all part of this interesting adventure called life. Resistance is inevitable, and to resistance is futile, right? And so my wish for you is that you simply walk through it remembering always who you really are and what you came here to be and what you came here to do. And so now join me for a moment in affirmative prayer. We don't ask or beg or plead or make deals. We simply know the truth in affirmative prayer. And so know with me right now that there is only one life. From the beginning of creation, out of that one initial flaring forth, everything came. Everything in the universe was created in that 1 second, that 1 nanosecond. Every cell in our bodies, the building blocks, came from that initial event. And so we are all united in one life, in one being, in one mind. We are interwoven with each other in ways that we cannot even fathom. We are interwoven with God, with Spirit, with that creative impulse in ways that we have not yet explored. Because it's all one, and we are in it and of it, and we are it. And so I know for each one of us that desire to more fully and more freely and happily and joyfully express life has its way with us. It moves us in directions that we may not have seen coming, but that are directions of good, expansion, growth, joy, happiness, learning, love. And that we are able to see so clearly, with such wisdom, everything that rises up in us along the way. The fear, the anxiety, the resistance, the excitement, the joy, the wonder, the awe, all of it. And we embrace it as part of the journey. And we just go on expanding. This is the way of our lives. And so I give thanks for this remembering this morning. I give thanks for each person who is here, making this celebration possible. I give thanks for all the ins and outs of this amazing adventure called life. I give thanks. And from this place of gratitude, I release these words knowing that the law of the universe is always supporting us, is always acting in our behalf. It always says yes. So I just say thank you, and I let it be, and I know it is so. And we say together to anchor and acknowledge it, and so it is. now have an opportunity to support the center and its work. And I invite you to take a moment to be grateful for all the blessings in your life, to be grateful for the people, the love, the abundance, the health, all the good things in your life, all that you have and all that you give from to the world, because gratitude is the opportunity to respond to life and to make welcome more. So welcome more good into your life every single day through this practice of gratitude. And if you aren't able to give today, or you aren't able to give at the level that you want to give, as the basket goes by, simply bless it. Bless the abundance of our community so that we may continue to grow, to shine our light, to wake up the light in others, to remind others of their own magnificence. So affirm with me, please. Gratefully I give with an attitude of abundance.
Gratefully I give with an attitude of abundance.
I know that as I give, so do I receive.
I know that as I give, so do I receive.
And so it is.
And so it